Greetings, my lords! My name is Stuart, son of Michael, and welcome to this month's review of the Lord of the Ring characters. This month will be dedicated to the movies that helped turn Lord of the Rings into a household name. And before you ask, no, we will not be referencing the Dark Times from the Darklands. We will lock those within a vault to be forgotten and pretend they simply do not exist. However, today we'll be covering Aragorn, son of Arathorn, the rightful king of Gondor and Isildur's heir. And just to avoid confusion, as per normal on this channel, we will be covering the events of the visual medium. And while I will mention many things that happened before the events of the Peter Jackson movies, I feel that we can accurately answer the question of Aragorn's alignment by following the films. Aragorn was raised in Rivendell by Elrond, where his real name and heritage were kept secret. When he was 20, he was given the Ring of Barahir and the Shards of Narsil, but they'll be stored at Rivendell. It was also around this time that Aragorn met and fell in love with Arwen, which is very funny to me because Arwen at this time is like 3,000 years old, and there's this kid fresh out of his teens swearing his love to you, and I gotta say, I'd be a little weirded out if I was her. After that, he assumed his role of the 16th chieftain of the Dunedain Rangers and lived with the remainder of his kind. By the way, Aragorn is a member of the race of men called the Dunedain, which are descendants from the Númenóreans. Blah, blah, blah. Does this matter? No, not particularly, but this does mean he has a longer lifespan than most men, and he has access to some special powers that others don't. For the next 30 years, Aragorn traveled with the Rangers. During that time, he and the Rangers began guarding the lands bordering the Shire. Aragorn served in the armies of both Gondor and Rohan under disguise as well, and after that time, returning from his 3-decade-long adventure, he met again with Arwen, and the two promised themselves to each other. That's what this romantic scene is here. That's them coming back together and declaring their love. Elrond would only approve of the marriage if Aragorn could take his proper place as both King of Gondor and Arnor, which, Jesus, you guys thought your in-laws had high standards. By the time the Lord of the Rings books properly begins, Aragorn is 87 and entering the prime of his life. When we first encounter him at the Prancing Pony, he had been working with Gandalf and temporarily held Gollum captive and fully understood the importance of the hobbits and the ring that they carried. Starting at the beginning of the film, it is very safe to say that Aragorn is lawful. I'd also argue that he is good, but his personality seems cold, stoic, and hollow. But to be honest, I just think it's subdued. Honestly, just to split the difference, I'm going to say he starts at lawful neutral, teetering at lawful good, but believe me when I say this is actually wrong and it will change by the end. One big thing I would like to point out is, however, is that the films do make significant changes to the story and the themes. In the books, Aragorn pretty much just accepted his destiny by the time the Fellowship was founded, and in the films, he seems extremely reluctant to become King of Gondor and Arnor, and is barely even mentioned until the Return of the King. We will be following movie canon for this entire month simply because I don't want the headache of triple checking the wiki and my book every time I need to make a ding. Also, this is neither here nor there, but I was a pretty huge Lord of the Rings fan in high school. I mean, pretty much every millennial was, but I was one of them. But I've forgotten a lot in the last 10 or, 20 years, I suppose. Either way, if I remember a cool fact or something, I'll post it in the dings, but we're gonna go by movie logic today, and I hope that's okay. If you remember a cool fact that I forgot to mention, feel free to post it in the comments. Lord of the Rings lore and Tolkien's writing is so fascinating because there's so much of it, and all of it surprisingly intertwines. It's just really good. The guy accomplished something that's still respected today for a reason. But with that out of the way, let's go. Around 3 years ago, I made a video called the Top 10 D&D Channels That Aren't Critical Role. At number 2, I declared that this channel called Don't Stop Thinking is arguably one of the best D&D content creators simply because of how much information is in his videos and how much production value he actually puts into them. Seriously, just check out any of these videos. These look legit and really, really good. And do you guys know how over the last 2 months I've been pitching non-stop about my Complete Waifu Handbook Kickstarter? Well, it just so happens that Don't Stop Thinking, the absolute mad lad, is also doing an anime-themed TTRPG of his own called Cloudbreaker. This video isn't sponsored, but I'm gonna shout him out anyway. Cloudbreaker is a unique 2d6 system developed by CJ himself, the guy in the animations. That's him, right there. It utilizes special teamwork, leveling, and character quirks in order to create a TTRPG that feels like a JRPG. Players can have up to 2 classes active at any time and switch between every class so long as you keep leveling them. It also gives you unique quirks to go on top of those in order to create unique, powerful combinations. There's also a special attire bonus like the Legendary Muscle Maid, which, Looks very similar. I swear we did not do this on purpose. Great minds just happen to think alike. Also, it has unique lore, a morale system for enemies, anime-inspired classes, and so much more. Plus, CJ, being one of the greatest D&D tubers ever, is creating highly well-animated tutorials and videos explaining how to play his game step by step. Honestly, he makes me want to step up my game a little bit. Go ahead and head on over to the Cloudbreaker Alliance Kickstarter and pledge today and tell CJ that Stuart sent you. I have actually already backed the project myself. I'm actually serious. I plan to make this book a permanent addition to the Loading Crew Crafts booth when you see me at your next anime convention. And with that out of the way, on to the video.
I would have gone with you to the end.
After the ring lands on Frodo's finger in a panic, Aragorn drags Frodo to the room upstairs to lecture him on his carelessness. He accepts the other frightened hobbits when they arrive who believe Frodo is in danger. Aragorn puts them at ease and warns them of the danger of their doorstep, literally. He then stays awake at night to protect them so that the hobbits can get some rest. Lawful good.
We've already had it.
We've had one, yes. What about second breakfast?
Don't think he knows about second breakfast, Pip.
Aragorn leads the hobbits to Rivendell, a stop along the way to Bree. He's following Gandalf's wishes and putting up with the hobbits. He throws an apple at Pippin, hunts for a deer for them to eat, and also gives them weapons while he's away, so that they can defend themselves. We'll give him a neutral for putting up with the hobbits and a lawful good for all the kind acts. Aragorn returns from having a look around to find that they've been ambushed. After clearing the Nazgul away, he learns that Frodo has been cursed by the Morgul knife. Aragorn gives Frodo to his elf girlfriend so that she can get him to Rivendell more quickly for medical attention. Awful good. While at Rivendell, Aragorn is patient, understanding, and humble while at the Council of Elrond and deciding the fate of the ring. While everyone was arguing, Frodo stepped up in order to take the ring to be destroyed. Inspired, Aragorn promises him his sword and his protection. Lawful good. Joining the Fellowship of the Ring, Aragorn goes with them through Moria, where Pippin causes a loud noise on accident, leading goblins and orcs and a troll straight towards them. Fighting for his own survival and for the survival of everyone in the party, we're going to give him a neutral good.
Fly, you fools!
With Gandalf gone, thanks to the Balrog, Aragorn takes charge of the situation and gets the team moving before more orcs can catch up with them. Neutral good. After being caught by a group of elves who aren't too happy about Frodo's ring, Aragorn reasons with them to let them through, and the Lady of Light permits them to pass. Lawful good.
Would you destroy it?
Taking a pit stop along their journey, Aragorn finds Frodo lost in the forest. Frodo asks if Aragorn would take on the role of the ring bearer, and Aragorn resists the ring's temptation and reaffirms Frodo. Lawful good. He then notices via Sting that orcs are in the area. Aragorn stays behind to hold them off so that Frodo can escape. A second lawful good. This leads to a Nat 20 fight scene as Aragorn solos a group of Uruk-hai.
They must have caught our scent.
Hurry!
With Merry and Pippin caught by orcs and Frodo parting ways, Aragorn leads Legolas and Gimli to save the Took and the Brandybuck from Saruman. Lawful good.
Be careful what you say. Do not look for welcome here.
Aragorn finds Gandalf while looking for the hobbits, who tells them that they're doing all right thanks to Treebeard. They head to Rohan and save the king, who's under Saruman's manipulation. After Gandalf frees Theoden's mind, the king tries to kill Saruman's crony, who was leading Rohan for the past bit of time. Aragorn leaps in and stops the king from killing the creep. Saving someone's life is generally good aligned, but because he stopped the king from passing his own judgment on a guy who could hurt more people, and will hurt more people, we will label this as chaotic good. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli are all helping escort the people of Rohan to Helm's Deep, expecting the full brunt of Saruman's forces now that this land is no longer under his control. They are ambushed and fight against the invasion, while Éowyn leads the townsfolk to Helm's Deep. Lawful good.
I want every man and strong lad, able to bear arms, to be ready for battle by nightfall.
Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli learn that Saruman's army is on their way to siege Hel's Deep. They stay to help fight. Lawful good.
You said this fortress would never fall while your men defend it!
Aragorn makes plans to send everybody who's not fighting through the caves to safety, while he and the king die on the battlefield to buy them time to get away. Luckily for them, Gandalf shows up and helps lead them to victory. Lawful good.
Sauron's armies march on Minas Tirith, this you know, but in secret he sends another force which will attack from the river.
Elrond shows up and lets them know that Sauron has reinforcements coming. He encourages Aragorn to go into the White Mountains and gain the allegiance of the Army of the Dead, a legion of ghosts cursed to remain on Earth for refusing to honor their oaths against Sauron during Isildur's time. Aragorn reveals that he is the heir to Gondor, and leads them through to victory at Minas Tirith, liberating them of their curse. Lawful good.
Draw out Sauron's armies. Empty his lands. Then we gather our full strength and march on the Black Gate.
With Gandalf letting everyone know that Frodo has finally made it into Mordor with the ring, they devise a plan to help him out from afar. That plan being, be so much of a pain in Sauron's ass that he's forced to deal with it. Even though the plan is suicide, he then taunts Sauron with the sword that cut him down in the first place. Lawful good.
My master, Sauron the Great, bids thee welcome.
Meeting the mouth of Sauron, it taunts the Fellowship with Frodo's mithril armor. Aragorn cuts off his head, starting the battle. Chaotic good. Also, Aragorn gives a nat 20 speech after this. In the heat of the battle, with virtually no hope of winning, Aragorn presses on. A few fights like these have already happened throughout the movies, and I really haven't been dinging them. So just to wrap up all the battles that Aragorn has either led, won, or fought in, we're going to give him 3 lawful goods for this. With the war for Middle-earth over, Aragorn officially reclaims the throne of Gondor. And just as we said in past videos, politicians are lawful evil. Just kidding. Tolkien was famous for saying that he hated people looking to his content through the lens of metaphor and allegory. Aragorn was never meant to represent any specific people or person, dear Wizards of the Coast. But instead, Aragorn was meant to demonstrate the best of men. And by men, I obviously mean mankind as a whole. Aragorn comes from a group of people who have been given blessings, gifts, powers, and privileges beyond what any normal person has had, but instead of using them to advance his own position, he uses these gifts to serve and help others. Aragorn is the king of 2 powerful and ancient nations, yet he holds the rest of the Fellowship, including the literal small folk, as equal to him because he knows that their contributions are just as great as his, even though they've hardly killed any orcs. The hobbits were ostensibly a bunch of hillbillies that basically just delivered an object from one place to another. Yet at the end of the day, when thousands of men and elves are bowing to him, he makes sure to grant the hobbits the highest honor. If we have to use allegory, it's as if a great war hero gave up top billing so that the foot soldiers and farmers that manage his supply lines can have them instead. Tolkien is a veteran of the First World War and understands that every member of society, from the warriors and kings to the seemingly innocuous innkeeper, are important and worthy of honor. Aragorn isn't an allegory. He's the example of how to treat others, even when you are in a high position yourself. He's basically the best elements of King Arthur and Jesus. As funny as that sentence is. And to be fair, Tolkien was Christian, so he probably based that off of what he understood honorable men to be. And to him, he's British. King Arthur is a legend there. He's Christian. Jesus is the guy to look up to. This makes sense. I should also point out that I think it was a correct call for Peter Jackson to initially have Aragorn not want to be king. I have stated time and time again that all politicians are lawful evil. But there is one exception to this, and it's a quote from Dumbledore of all people. It is said that good leaders are not those that seek power, but are typically those that have leadership roles forced upon them, and they must lead others because no one else will. Aragorn reluctantly becoming king does in fact demonstrate that he is the exception that proves the rule that I have about politicians. Not only that, he carried the nobility and responsibility of the world on his shoulders, but he was more than willing to get his hands dirty to do the hard work that needs to be done. It's the difference between a ruler and a king. Be purposeful and final, but unite the world through kindness and love. As a kid, I didn't really appreciate him, because I was just watching Lord of the Rings for the action stuff. But as an adult, it's quite inspiring to watch a character fight for others despite being mistreated and mistrusted, and it would be nice and reassuring if people in power could use their resources to help others. Literally anyone. But this is getting away from me. Come back next week when we look at some of his traveling companions.